Ah, the power of storytelling. Pharaoh used it to manage and direct his assets. Israel was compelled to escape the trap, fleeing for the promised land, crossing a desert with daily provision for decades. You and I have the same superpower within to change our trajectory from the useless class, converting a lump of clay into a useful vessel. Now, obviously, this is a bit earlier model of an Airstream than you've seen in most of the episodes. That's because we're at Three Island Crossing near Glens Ferry, Idaho. It's sort of the crossing point of the Snake River for the early settlers on the way to realizing the dream that had them afoot across the entire country in all sorts of weather, in all sorts of hostile conditions. Welcome back to Scotomaville, reflection video for Volume 1, Episode 6 on hieroglyphics. They had something that compelled them. The American dream, a better life they envisioned, the idea that they were capable of turning a lump of clay into a worthy vessel. In this episode, I'd like you to consider the storytelling that you're surrounded by and that habitates your own brain and thinking throughout the day. That in fact is a choice you make and a direction you take based on the ideas you choose. You know, the basic idea that I want to communicate is that emotionally rich storytelling is a superpower. And it can either work for you or against you. If you're not aware of it, it's probably working against you. You see, the point of Pharaoh's story was to constrain, to organize and direct and manage all of the resources, including the human assets, not just the grain silos. And I tell the story in order to show how easy it is to fool you. You might remember the saying that history is an excellent teacher if you're paying attention. It seems we're surrounded by opportunities to learn if we're paying attention. Something compelled the settlers. Something gave them an overwhelming sense that they could achieve. That ambition had them face all sorts of obstacles. And in a reflection video, I can look back and see the same thing. I can see many trips across the country where something inside of me kept me recording, kept me facing on the unknown, and kept this series and the dream of helping others in a chevron to happen. You should remember from the earlier reflection episode 5, the story of the potter in Philadelphia. You see, he transferred the belief through a hands-on experience that the young men in that neighborhood would realize they were capable. The potter helped them find their inner belief. And as Blaise Pascal says, follow in the way they began. The reflection videos are to give you the evidence while I'm experiencing it that the journey is worth the telling. that the effort in recording it is worthwhile. In order to say more with less words, let me just remind you by looking ahead. The point of chapter 13 of volume 2 and of chapter 6 of volume 1 is to encourage you that the stories you let in and that you believe and that you act on are a choice. They may have been planted so early on by criticism, by violation, by mandate, by bad situations, by circumstance, by misfortune. There may be dozens of reasons that they got in. But you on an expedition, a Personal Everest, you can choose to change them. You see, these pioneers did not know their final destination. They just had an idea, and they continued day in and day out, hauling well over a ton of supplies for the journey on foot across some hostile landscape and weather conditions. Nothing like Angelina and I have faced with an airstream on a highway with high fuel prices. No, nothing. So by watching Angelina and I, and by considering what these fabulous people experienced and pioneered for us, you might think, you know what? I deserve a better outcome. I deserve a better story in my mind. I think I'll start choosing those. Over the many times I've traveled across the United States by bicycle and towing an airstream, I've learned there's too many factors to account for, and that your plans need to be compelling but flexible. You need to be able to pivot and accept a backup position on an offer, or the unknown of that night's stay. Rolling your bedroll out where you end up because things happen, because pandemics come along, and because we're not in control. I do also want to point out, we've never had a lack. Scripture promises provision for those who are on a mission. If you have a strong intention and you're compelled in being obedient to that calling, my testimony is you'll find the provision for the necessities, maybe not the comforts, but for the essentials. That's my testimony. That's been my experience for 20-something years with Angelina and over 40 years as an entrepreneur. In closing out this reflection episode, take note that this is a tipping point in Volume 1. Thus far, I've been providing you with the experience of the Scotomas, the significant ones, not all of them. But from here out, in the remaining chapters of Volume 1, I'm going to introduce the tools, the actual mental and physiological toolbox that will enable you to stay on the road, to fix the things that need to be fixed en route. I hope I've said more with less words, helping you get the heck out of Scotomaville. See you next episode.